Welcome back to the Tiga Tactics Podcast, a show about self-defense for civilians by civilians. We discuss all things personal protection, including martial arts, combat sports, and street combatives. Our resident MANs martial arts nerds include co-founder of Tiga Tactics and holder of black belts in 9 different styles, Dr. Conrad Bui.
Hello, everybody.
We also have black belt holder in 4 different styles, and the other co-founder, Patrick Vuong.
What's up, Tiga Tacticians?
Well, I like that. Tiga Tacticians, I like it. And I'm your other co-host, retired Army Special Forces soldier and champion obstacle course racing athlete, Evan Ultra-OCR man Perperis. Today, we're going to be talking about ninjas. Before we get to that, though, a quick word about Vulpes Training. Vulpes Training has some great training products. We're going to be talking about a lot of swords and stuff like that. So if anyone's looking for some training swords, they are on Vulpes Training. And I know we just released on the Tiga Tactics Instagram a quick video of you and Sensei Scott Sobel doing some training. Any thoughts on some of the products, Patrick or Conrad?
Yeah, I love them. They're just so well built. Made out of polymer, high impact plastic, but the crew there at Vulpes, they can craft them into almost any shape, any size, make them very realistic or very artsy and go the other direction. And I'm really enjoying them.
Yeah, I'm super excited. They just released essentially the knife from the Book of Eli. It's like a almost like a kukri design. Actually, anyway, it's like a machete. Long story short, but it's from the Book of Eli, which I like that movie. Anyway, let's jump into today's episode. We are talking about ninjas, and what spurred this on was, Patrick, you recently went to Japan, correct?
I did, yeah. I went there recently and got to go to several different cities, and it was an amazing experience. And one of the things that I did was go to the Kyoto Samurai and Ninja Museum.
Amazing. I love it.
Yeah.
So tell us about, one, I want to hear about your ninja experience first, and then we'll talk about some, ninja and ninjutsu as an art, and then some of our favorite movies, etc. So tell us about the experience. Like, what was it like? How expensive was it? What did you do, etc.?
Yeah, the museum is pretty cool. It's not as big as you would expect a museum to be in, say, North America. But again, this is Japan. Everything is much smaller. The buildings are smaller. The land is smaller. The cars are smaller. The people are smaller. So this museum was smaller than I was hoping for, but it was still very cool. And as the name denotes, it is both samurai and ninja. So I did both, but we can save the samurai portion for another episode. We'll just talk about the ninja experience. So I signed up for basically the 2-for-1, right? I did samurai and ninjutsu. And so it worked out to be roughly, with the exchange rate, roughly $127 US.
Per person?
Per person, yes.
Ooh, that's pricey.
Yeah, it's a little pricey. And so I kind of had a sense like, ooh, this is a tourist trap. But, how often am I going to go to Japan? And how often am I going to pretend to be a ninja, right? So
it sounds like a tourist trap I'm going to walk into purposefully.
Absolutely. We're all suckers for this trap.
Yes, for sure. So the way I looked at it was, okay, I'm paying roughly $60 per experience, paying $60 to be a samurai, paying $60 to be a ninja. All right, it's not too bad then. And so
that's not bad if it was for both. That's not too bad.
Yeah, that's how I justified it. I just told myself, hey, I'm getting 2-for-1. It's not horrible. To be honest, if you went into like a MMA gym run by a really famous champion, his drop-in fee might be just as expensive. So you never know, right? So I just thought of it as, I'm not going to be in Japan for very long. I don't know when I'm ever going to come back, so I might as well do this. So I paid for one. I did the samurai experience first, and then they kind of escorted me into the ninja portion. And the first thing is they give you the clothes, and so obviously you're not going to go full head to toe ninja style, but they give you basically pants and a shirt to make you feel like you're somebody else. And instead of a mask, I got a headband. So I was like, all right, that's fine, that's cool. The hard part was finding my size, because I'm not a very big dude. I am Asian, so I'm not huge. I'm stocky, but I'm not tall, and I'm not 200 something pounds. I'm about 5'8", 180 pounds. But they had problems finding American sizes for all the Westerners who were doing it. And so I needed, in Japanese size, I needed an extra large. And normally I wear like a medium or large. So that kind of gives you an idea of like how much smaller the people are. Because in Japan, I'm extra large.
That's so funny. I mean, you're not that big. In fact, I just got a compliment from our seminar picture because one of my friends was like, I noticed none of the instructors have giant chi guts. So great job, everyone.
Hey, all right.
Yeah. So yeah, Japanese people are small. So we put that on, and it just immediately took me back to when I was roughly 7 years old, and my mother had sewn me a ninja costume. This is in the late 80s, with the huge ninja boom, and so I immediately was transported in time. It felt awesome. It was really cool. But after that, I was a little disappointed, to be honest, because I was expecting a ninjutsu master. Like I want the full experience. I want to be trained by a sensei who knows what he's talking about, who's gone through the training. I'm not expecting Hatsumi or any grandmaster from Bujukan, but I expect a pretty decent black belt, and I didn't sense that from our quote unquote sensei. I don't really think he was a sensei. He's basically like he's basically like late teens, early 20s. This is probably his part-time job. He's probably a college kid. And I could sense that he was not a sensei because he had poor command of the room.
Hey, Patrick, that's exactly what a ninja would want you to think.
Oh, touche.
Sucker.
I was taken. But yeah, this young dude, he just didn't have command of the room. The Westerners and the Europeans were kind of rowdy, not really paying attention. They just wanted to start playing with the toys right away. And to me, when you're a martial arts black belt and you've earned that, you immediately have command of the room, especially in Japan. Every Japanese martial arts I've ever trained with, they all have that certain command presence.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're a black belt, you know the subject material, and you're comfortable being in front of people typically, because at some point along your journey, at some point you probably stepped up and had to teach something. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I'm already kind of a little disappointed with it just based on feel. And then before we did anything, he basically started handing out replica weapons so that we could take pictures, which is kind of part of the tourist trap. They want us to market them, so they gave us these kama or sickles. They're made out of metal, but obviously not sharp. And then the little daggers and some plastic throwing stars, and they gave everybody a chance to take pictures of them, take pictures with them. And then finally he got into the quote unquote lesson, which was basically him just for about 20 minutes telling us the history of ninja and allowing us to ask questions, which is fine, which is cool, because there's a lot of myths about ninjutsu and ninja. And so I thought I like that, but his English wasn't the best. It wasn't as good as my samurai instructor, who was a true martial artist, and his English was excellent. So that was kind of disappointing, but it was enlightening. He did basically reaffirm some of the things that I learned later on in life, because early in my life I thought ninja were like supermen. They had like superpowers, right? They could disappear in thin air, and Conrad, what else could they do back in the 80s? Like,
they could climb walls like Spider-Man, and they had mind control, and of course unparalleled martial arts as well too.
Right, exactly. So it was kind of cool to get the historical aspect. Unfortunately, he's not from a true master, but he did kind of enlighten us and say, hey, basically ninja were not warrior. They were not samurai. They were not killing machines. They were basically essentially spies, and their day job actually they were farmers. So Conrad, can you kind of explain like the idea of the class, samurai class, and all that stuff?
Japan was a class system, so you were born into nobility, or you were born into the warrior class, or you were born into the monk slash religious class, or merchant class, as well as farming class. And I think there was also like an artisan class, like people who built homes and things like that. So it wasn't, it was very rare if you were to move up and down. So, you know, especially we all know about the samurai, that they had the class, they had the honor and all that. But yeah, to have like ninjas, they learn martial arts outside of their class, supposedly.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So I learned that for the most part because of that class system, you couldn't be like a samurai and a ninja, you know. And as a kid, I was like, oh, I'm gonna transform now and I'll be a samurai. Now I'm gonna be a ninja at night. So no, it's you're basically born into the farming class of the farming community, and then they train secretly amongst their family. It's kind of like a clan, and then they are recruited as mercenaries, and they can be hired by anybody, but generally they're hired by the samurai to spy on other tribes, other clans, other islands, so to speak. So that was kind of interesting to see. And there were basically, I found out there's only two ninja family. Like we hear about this in like anime and movies, but basically they say historically there's only two ninja clan, the Iga and the Koga. So that was kind of interesting to find out. That is not as widespread as I thought it would be. You know, like you've seen the old classic ninja movies where there's like the red ninjas, the black ninjas, the white ninjas, you know, blue ninjas. But yeah, basically just two ninja clans. And so we got the history lesson, and that was cool. That was martial arts myth busting. And then came the physical hands-on training, and it just kind of went downhill from there. Like Conrad said, like, they're supposed to be well renowned for their well-roundedness in terms of martial arts, and basically we got two aspects of that. One was throwing stars, and the other was blow darts. So we did the throwing star first, and the throwing stars were actually pretty cool. They're hard plastic, not unlike our Vulpes training tools. It's shaped in a star, the classic 5-point star, and the targets, though, because they were plastic, our targets were styrofoam walls, and so I don't know if you guys have ever tried throwing knives or throwing stars, but it's actually really hard to stick a knife or stick a blade in wood. But when you're throwing in styrofoam, pretty much everything sticks.
With knives, you can throw them backwards and they'll stick in on the handle side with a target like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. It's it was kind of a disappointing experience, so to speak. But it's still fun. The way I look at it is it appeased the inner kid in me, the little 8-year-old who wanted to be a ninja growing up. So
Did they teach you how to throw the star, or they just grab it and toss it?
well, I gotta say, safety on the line was not very good. People were downrange, and then the Europeans were still throwing stars all over the place. So it was pretty scary. But the quote unquote sensei did say that you grip it between your index finger and your thumb. You basically hold one of the points, and you hold it in between your finger, your index finger, and your thumb, and then you bring it up above your head, over your shoulder, and then throw it downward. He didn't show any like sideways or underhand. It was basically over the head and a quick wrist flick. He said basically it's a wrist flick, and then you follow through. And some people were pretty good at it. I was not. I'm a horrible thrower. I've never been good at throwing baseballs or footballs. When I played basketball, I was the point guard, so I basically passed all the time. I was just horrible at shooting, so I'd very rarely throw very well, and I was horrible at throwing the throwing stars. Though I have to say, my friend Ian, he went with me on this trip, and we did this together, and he actually so we did the lessons. We all got to throw several times, and then there was a quote unquote competition at the end, and he actually got perfect. Not perfect, but he actually won the competition because he hit the bullseye the most amount of times. So he won. He got to take home one of the throwing stars, being the quote unquote throwing star champion.
Ooh.
Yeah. So yeah, not a whole lot of technique. I was kind of disappointed into that. I thought maybe he'll show us different techniques and the reasons why for each one. But he did say that the throwing stars aren't meant to kill anybody. They're really just a distraction so that they could run away.
Did they talk about the outfits?
Yeah, definitely. Because he referenced how normally they're wearing all black and it's the slip away at night. But he said most of the time because they're spies, they would actually dress in everyday clothes, kind of like what the tactical would call gray man or police would call undercover. And so they would dress as normally they're farmers, right? They would then dress as, say, an artisan, or they would dress as another class, so that they could then spy on their target, whether it's the royal family or a lower level samurai, what have you. So they would understand the community, understand their target, and then dress accordingly. So that was kind of cool. They are basically essentially like the CIA of the ancient Japanese world, if you will.
Yeah, that's a good comparison, and that was heartbreaking to me when I found out that there were no like ninja outfits per se. I did some research on it, and from the best guess was that I think people came up with was during plays people would wear all black like the stage dance to show that they were invisible.
You're breaking up, Evan. You broke up at when people would wear all black.
Yeah, so I did some research, kind of looking into the outfits and like where some of that came from, and from what I could find, the people would wear all black as like stagehands during plays to show that they were invisible, and some people think that essentially that eventually transferred over into the mainstream, is that they were supposed to be invisible because they're wearing all black as stagehands, and then one of the actors like who's like takes off his mask, and then it's like, oh, there he is, and that's where some of the quote unquote invisibility comes from.
Interesting.
But there's, if you even look at a lot of like the historical pictures and stuff like that, there's almost none of people even wearing black as quote unquote ninjas.
Right.
Like there's one that's like a really dark blue, and they're like, yeah, it's close enough. And but it's not like the ninja outfit. It's just like a guy just in generally dark clothing.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just gonna pretend I didn't hear any of that because I still think the ninja uniform is a real thing.
Oh man, that's hilarious. Yeah, that was a little disappointing to find out, for sure. But the experience for me got a little bit better because we actually moved on to blow darts. And again, I was expecting, maybe some hands-on techniques, some joint locks. I don't know how to jump higher, how to crouch low. I don't know what I was expecting. But we got blow darts, and I was like, all right, that's fine. All right, we'll try it. And I actually was very good at it. And then I realized, oh, it's because it's shooting, and I'm a way better shooter than I am a thrower. I can't throw worth crap, but I can actually shoot okay. So, and so they obviously they couldn't give us poison darts. So the quote unquote dart was just construction paper rolled up into a cone.
That's very disappointing.
Yes, it was. I was hoping at least some, like, I don't know, some feathers on the end. I don't know what to expect. But yeah, it's basically construction paper shaped into a cone. And they gave us a long metal pipe. And yeah, we just basically shot at the same targets. And we did a competition again, and I actually scored 100%. We did 3 rounds. I hit 3 bullseyes, so I actually won the competition.
Nice.
And I was praying that they would not give me a quote unquote blow dart as my prize, but fortunately, the sensei was kind on me. He gave me a throwing star.
Yay!
Oh, nice.
So
Nice.
I got to come away with one of the hard plastic throwing stars, which was cool. And I actually was mistaken. I think I said earlier it was a 5-point star. The ones that we had were 6-point stars. They are very similar to the ones that I think actually, Conrad, when I was a kid, you gave me one that was actually made out of metal. And that was the very first throwing star I ever got in my life. And I don't know if they sold those in Denver or if you got them in like LA Chinatown, but I still remember. I still have them. I think somewhere stashed away somewhere.
Oh yeah, collector's item. I bought those at the flea market way back in the day. That was like when they'd sell anything to kids back in the flea market back in the day. And so yeah, I picked up a bunch of throwing stars and knives and all sorts of stuff as a kid.
Oh man, good times, good times. So
Way to represent for Tiga Tactics, winning the competition.
yes, exactly.
We're proud
yes.
of you. We're proud of you.
Yep.
I destroyed the obnoxious senior citizen Europeans who were talking too much and not following safety protocols. So yes, I did best them.
So do either of you have any experience in like quote unquote actual ninjutsu, like the martial art ninjutsu?
None.
Conrad?
Zilch. Nothing. Although I think it would be totally fun. I mean, come on, you got to dress up in all black, sneak around, climb on ropes, use swords and throwing stars and all that. I mean, I think a weekend of that sounds like a real fun time.
Agreed. What about you, Patrick?
I have not. I've never taken a formal lesson. I know a few people who have trained in it. One who is a high-ranking black belt, and then several who did it for a long time and are totally disillusioned by it. So, take that for what it's worth. I'm not going to say anything bad about it because I haven't formally trained in it, and I kind of have a policy that unless I formally trained in it at least a few times, I'm not going to say anything bad about it. So
yeah. So I go down deep dives as people may have figured out. I was also on American Ninja Warrior 3 times, and so people sometimes refer to me as a quote unquote ninja because I was on the show, I was on the TV show. So at some point in my martial art journey, I was like, I should learn some ninjutsu, so I'm like a real ninja.
right.
And it's not based off my time. It wasn't important enough for me to like find a quote unquote ninjutsu studio. But I was like, well, let me find some DVDs online or something. Maybe like an online course or something I could take. And I looked into Ninja Training TV, which is one of the Bujinkan systems, and they have multiple like 10 levels to black belt, and it looked pretty expensive, like a sizable investment. And it would take a couple of years. I was a little bit above where my price range I was looking, and then I found like Ninja DVDs off eBay. It was like 18 DVDs, and I was like,
wow.
I was like, oh, and it was like comes with certificates for like, and I was like, oh, cool. So like you watch the DVDs and you kind of like self-assess, and then you can like fill out the certificates or whatever, and then you'll have your certificates. And so I order it, and I get my DVDs, I get my certificates, and they're filled out and like backdated. And I was like, no, wait, I haven't watched any of the DVDs yet. It's like I actually want to learn the things. I don't just want like the certificates. So I basically emailed them and like, can you send me like a blank one so I can like fill it out on my own? And they did. It was very nice of them. And then I've been like, I slowly started working through the DVDs. I've only made it through about 3 of the 18, and they have some good stuff. They have some ridiculous stuff. I think it's a mix of. I think like every martial arts system, there's going to be some things you're like, oh, this totally makes sense, and I like this, and then there's other things you're going to be like, no, this is terrible. Even in the karate I took, there was a lot of moves where I was like, okay, well, this is part of the system, got it, but like I'm 100% never doing this.
Right.
I feel like ninjutsu had a lot of the stuff I didn't like from karate and put it in, but then they had some. Again, the DVDs I've watched so far, like some of them were legit judo throws, right? I mean, you could have pulled them right out of the judo school, and they talked about principles like breaking posture before a throw, which I was like, oh, that's a good reminder, and stuff that I brought into my Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu class and like used it to take people down. So I think it has some good stuff. I think it has some ridiculous stuff. They spent a lot of time talking about like weird fish shapes, which I'm generally not a fan of.
Say that again. A weird fish.
Weird fist shapes. Like
fist.
Where there's like one knuckle protruding, or there's like, I don't know. Your hand's doing weird things. It's not just like punching or palm strike.
Gotcha.
And then they did talk about some the weapon stuff I've been enjoying. They talked about, which I'm assuming it would be better for me to take Aido and just get the sword stuff from them. But I'm currently getting my sword stuff from Ninjutsu. So that's from Ninjutsu DVDs. So.
Well, that's cool. Are you still going through the DVDs and training and all that?
Yeah, I go through one every couple of months. I kind of just chipping away at it, and I'll watch it a couple times. I'll take notes on it, and then I'll practice it a little bit, and then try to extract a couple things I like from it. But like I'm not spending hours in a week like going through and doing ninjutsu moves. And they did a lot of break falls and rolling and stuff like that. So stuff that is applicable.
Mm-hmm.
I have heard, again, this is mostly from YouTube videos. I have heard a lot of the ninjutsu schools do no pressure testing. And if you're not going to do any pressure testing, I think any system that's not going to do any pressure testing is not going to be that good. So I would imagine people who are taking ninjutsu in person, I think it's going to vary a lot based off of your instructor and what your school does for like sparring and pressure testing.
Yes, I'm not going to say which school, but I have a friend who works at one, and they are not allowed to spar.
Right. Yeah. Technique's too deadly, maybe. I
don't know. Yeah, I don't understand the thinking behind it. Yeah, I don't understand. It's based on what my friend said. It's a mishmash of karate, jiu-jitsu, judo, aikido,
yes, yep,
and some iaido, and just kind of everything is kind of poorly done. But that doesn't mean every ninjutsu school is like that. It just happened to be the one where my friend is teaching at. And keep in mind, my friend is has a black belt in taekwondo, and trained in many other arts. Has been exposed to a lot of things. Does Brazilian jiu-jitsu, so he does pressure tests a lot. He does a lot of sparring, stand-up sparring, and so he understands what it is to pressure test. So when he came and he started teaching at this ninjutsu school, he's like, "What? You don't spar? Not even like light point spar?
Yeah, right.
Nothing. No.
Yeah."
It's a shame. It's a shame.
Again, you take any martial art and remove the pressure testing and sparring, and it's, within a couple of years, it's going to start falling apart because people won't understand like how to implement it. I mean, you can take a Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and if you remove the rolling, like people would not be good, right? Because they wouldn't be used to like the pressure and like doing it against a resisting opponent. So
exactly.
Yeah. But so that's been my ninjutsu experience so far, and again, more of like a fun side project. I'm not going to be walking around claiming I'm a ninjutsu black belt in a couple of years, but I'm enjoying just checking out the system as a kind of an outside observer.
But you could say that you are a black belt, and no one would question you.
That's true, because I have a certificate that's backdated like a year, like 2 years ago.
You're right.
So I'm curious, Evan. Some people have said that ninjas were like the special forces of their time. What do you think about that?
Maybe there. Special operations does a lot of different roles, and I think some of the ninjutsu roles do in fact fall into that category. Yeah, and even some of their actual historical role, but then also their like fictionalized role. I feel like special operations blanket covers a lot of that stuff. So yeah, I think Spies is the best comparison, I would say.
Okay.
Yeah, I would agree with Patrick on like the CIA is the agency, as like a modern day comparison. And we have other units that do similar functions that I'm not going to talk about on the podcast, but yeah.
Yeah, I kind of think of it as like they're not the paramilitary aspect of the CIA. They are the clandestine side.
Yeah.
They fit in. Nobody knows they're there. They gather information. and then they go back home and share that information.
Yeah, and the paramilitary aspect of the agency is really small. It's really small. Like they come to other units when they need help with direct action type stuff. Yeah.
See.
All right.
You mentioned, sorry, you mentioned the fictionalized depiction of a ninja. That brings me to movies. So what, Conrad and Evan, what are your favorite ninja movies?
I would have to say my favorite ninja movies, and I'm a sucker for ninja movies, especially back in the 80s. All it had to do was say ninja, and I would watch it. It wouldn't matter. And I knew some of these movies sucked, and it was just like, this is a horrible movie. But I was like, but there's ninjas in it. That makes it a good movie. If there were ninjas in it, that it was a good movie for me. But I have to say, my favorite one is Revenge of the Ninja, and there's Sho Kasugi, and he did a wonderful job. I think his son Ken Kasugi was also in it, and that was probably my favorite ninja movie as well. I remember watching it back in the 80s in the theaters, and I grew up in Aurora, Colorado, and there's a lot of Black people in Aurora, Colorado, and when you go watch movies with them, it's hilarious. They're yelling comments, they're cracking jokes. It's like getting free improv with the movie. Some people hated it, but I loved it. There was the scene where Keith Vitale, he plays a police officer, and he's helping out Sho Kasugi's character. And so Sho Kasugi's like, oh, this guy's a ninja. Oh, I've got to take care of this. And they were consulting with Keith's boss, the police chief, because Keith was a police officer. And the police chief's like, yeah, you should probably let these ninjas handle it. This is above the grade kind of thing. And then this one person in the audience yelled, yeah, he said ninja, not Nike. Because Keith Vitale was like wearing the tracksuits all the time. It was just hilarious. And yeah, just that was probably my favorite. Before we hop over to other people's favorite, I do want to also say it was on TV. There was a TV show for the ninjas as well too, called The Master. I believe Lee Van Cleef was the ninja master, and I would watch that too. Some of you are like, what? Check it out. It was very corny, but man, I loved it. Again, it just had to say ninja, and I was there.
Awesome.
Yeah, Revenge of the Ninja is actually part of the trilogy. It's Enter the Ninja, Revenge of the Ninja, and then Ninja 3, The Domination.
Right.
So all very good, all recommended, all ridiculous. I'm going to jump over I'm going to pick out two modern ones, just because I think you guys have much more depth in 80s ninja movies than I do. I've watched a couple, but my depth is not there. So there's two that recently came out, I think both on Netflix. One of them is called House of Ninjas. It's a series. They've only got one season. It was good. It wasn't too ridiculous, but there's enough 80s ninja flair in there to enjoy. But still like modern drama as well. So there's still people running around in black jumpsuits throwing ninja stars and stuff like that. And some of the fight scenes towards the end of the season for season 1 were very, very good.
Wow.
And then the other one, which it starts off as a ninja movie and then just kind of turns into violent action, was The Shadow Strays, also on Netflix. I think it was Indonesian filmed. Super violent, just very violent. I would check that out as well. The opening scene is ninja heavy though. So
very cool.
Cool. What about you, Patrick?
My first thought would be like American Ninja, because that's a whole cool franchise. But I have to say Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I know it came out in 1990, so it's a little bit late, but I started loving them when there was a cartoon series in the 80s, and so it took them a few years, but they finally got it going. They had the technology to create them in live action, and to me, I can still watch Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the 1990 movie, and I'll still enjoy it. That's, I think, to me, how well made it was back then. Sure, there's some corny parts and like the stories, whatever, but the actual animatronics on the head of the ninja to me is like a perfect adaptation of the cartoon. I happen to know Stephen Ho, who was the stuntman for Donatello, and the amount of stunts they had to do blind was crazy, because if you're inside the turtle suit, the head is just animatronics, so it's all electronics. They could not see at all. Literally, they could not see. They could kind of see through the mouth a little bit,
Wow.
but that's not where their eye line was. So they're literally, the most they could see with feet at the most. But most of the time they were fighting blind, so they had to memorize the choreography and hope that someone wouldn't kick them or they wouldn't kick somebody. And they're working with weapons too. They all 4 ninjas had weapons. So it, to me, it's incredible. So I got to say Ninja Turtles.
I feel like we might have to do a separate Ninja Turtles episode at some point, because
Right.
there's a lot to unpack there.
Oh, yeah.
And the 90s movie was super gritty for like a kids movie. It was like exceptionally gritty. Surprising. Real quick, anyone who wants a really good graphic novel, The Last Ronin is about the one surviving Teenage Ninja Turtle out of the 4. I won't tell you which one it is, but so good. Pick up The Last Ronin graphic novel. It's so good.
Oh,
yeah, and
absolutely.
like the one surviving turtle has like horrible PTSD, and he's got like visions of his 3 brothers. It's so good. Yeah, highly recommended.
I agree.
Any other picks, recommendations before we start closing it out?
If you want more comedy and less action, then Beverly Hills Ninja is pretty hilarious. It's with Chris Farley,
Right.
And he actually, from the people I know in the stunt world, he actually was really into martial arts, and he was doing a lot of his own quote unquote stunts. So, but it's played for laughs. So it co-stars Robin Shaw, who was Liu Kang in Mortal Kombat.
Liu Kang,
yeah. So check that out if you haven't, if you want some laughs. It's coming up in July. We actually have a couple of events. The first one being July 5th. So Conrad, why don't you share that? I think we can talk about it now.
Absolutely. We're going to have a Kuntao Silat fundraising event again. We'll have plenty of Kuntao, we'll have plenty of Silat, and we'll have Kuntao Silat as well on top of all that. So please join us. It'll be on Zoom. There'll be different instructors sharing through Zoom. So you don't even have to travel anywhere to learn and join. And also it's a fundraising event for Uncle Bill as well too. So please join us for that.
Oh, why don't you tell them who Uncle Bill is for those not familiar?
Uncle Bill, his name is Willem de Tours. He's one of the de Tours brothers. He pioneered Silat and Kuntao Silat in the U.S. One of the, I would say, last of a dying breed, if you will. He's just an amazing individual, and he's dedicated his life to progressing the martial arts as well as spreading the martial arts in the U.S. So he might make a special appearance, and so please come and join us, and you might get a chance to see him live as well too.
Awesome. Patrick, what do you have?
After that, in July, I believe it's July 19th to 20th, we'll be in San Francisco, Conrad's hometown. We'll be teaching the Knife and Pistol Defense Seminar. We've had that in a couple other cities, and they've all sold out. So we definitely recommend you guys sign up early. We're gonna reveal how you handle an armed attacker. Whether they're armed with a knife or whether they're armed with a handgun. 2 very common weapons used on the street by criminals.
Yeah, 2 very common weapons, and as a martial artist, 2 of the most scary weapons that I could think of. Of course, a knife. It's scary regardless of what martial art you train. Even if it's a bladed system, it's very scary. And as a martial artist too, I was always fascinated by firearms, and because I wanted to part of knowing how to defend yourself against something would be how does somebody use that in the first place? And so this is something I would have loved to have taken in 10 years ago in my martial arts career, how to deal with these firearm threats as well as a straight up street level knife attack.
Yeah, both great courses and or a great seminar from the one in Maryland was a ton of fun recently. So, and I think everyone who came walked out the door feeling better prepared, both on the mindset and skill set portions. Absolutely. And then even on tool set, if you weren't familiar with firearms or blades at all, I think you learned a lot there too as well.
Right.
Check out the show notes down below. My links to my book, The Combative's Blueprints, down there. And I just went through and re-edited it one more time. I found some spelling mistakes that I wasn't kind of happy with, and kind of re-uploaded a better version onto Amazon. So that's been updated, and I fixed a lot of just the minor spelling errors. And Run If You Can, Destroy If You Must, also that link down there, and my Patreon is down there as well for anyone who wants more martial content. Right.
And are you starting up your Western Piper knife fighting methods soon?
Oh yeah, we're starting that Tuesday. I'll as soon as we get off the Zoom call, I'll confirm time with you, Conrad, and it'll be Tuesday evenings. And if you're at the $10 level, you can jump in those calls for free and get certified by the end of the summer in level 1 Western Piper methods.
Very awesome. Cool. I look forward to that.
We will catch you guys in the next episode. If anyone sees this post on Facebook or Instagram, give us some ninja movie recommendations down below so we can all relive some good times and then check out the ones we haven't seen.
Right.
All right. We'll catch you guys later.
Take care, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.